Reality is fragile. Layers of code, history and perception. But what happens when the scenes split and your reality becomes something else entirely? Welcome to Glitch Reality. There is just 2 more tales left in this season, with episode 15 being my user-submitted episode. Please make sure to tune in for that one. So what comes next? Well, there is a variety of options. You've got the music, you've got the comics, and also if you join us on TikTok at Dark Legends and Demons, you can have 1 to 2 minute getaways about everything strange. Every day I drop a bite-sized fact file about demons, deities, curses, cryptids, or digital-born nightmares. Now then, let's step inside, find your seat, and ask yourself, what happens when the only voice left to confess is your own? Tonight's story is The Confession Booth. There's something scary about silence, the kind you get in an old church after midnight, where the air is cold enough to breathe in and see it. No doubt in front of you, you will see your breath. The pews stand empty, lined like quiet witnesses. The candles flicker without a breeze, and the weight of every confession you've ever heard clings to the walls like smoke. You sit in the silence long enough, and it starts to witness back. My name is Father Thomas. I served at St. Augustine's for over 20 years. I've heard everything in that booth. Envy, infidelity, addiction. The broken pieces of people that can't admit to the world, but still want to let go of it. They give those pieces to me, and I carry them for them. But for 3 months, a man stepped into that booth. He didn't give me his name, he was just a voice. And that voice changed everything, because what he confessed to me was murder. St. Augustine's was the kind of church that smelled like memory. Old incense baked into stone, candle wax clinging to wooden pews, pages of hymns softened by time and too many hands. It's quiet now. It's always quiet past midnight. There's something about those hours when the world has gone still, and only the sounds of you and your breathing and your footsteps echoing off the marble. I was making my last rounds, checking the doors, extinguishing candles. They had burned too low, their flames thin and now trembling. The organ stood silent in the shadows, like a beast sleeping with its mouth open. I paused in the centre aisle, staring at the red sanctuary flickering lamp behind the altar. Ever alone, I never really felt alone in there. But that's when I heard it. The door opened. It wasn't a kind of a sharp sound that startles you. It was slow, deliberate, like the building took a breath, and then silence. I turned, expecting to see someone, anyone, standing in that entryway. But the space was empty. No umbrella dripping on the tiles, no coat wet from the rain outside, just the heavy wooden door slowly swinging shut. Then I saw movement, a figure, dark against the dim candlelight, gliding towards the confessional booth, along the left-hand wall. No hesitation, no greeting. He simply opened the middle door and disappeared inside. I hesitated. There hadn't been a call, no appointment. No one else knew I was staying late, not even Father Mendez. Still, I followed. Something about this felt wrong, but I couldn't tell you why. I slid into the booth opposite him, sat down, adjusted the divider. The air inside was like cold, old wood, polished, and the faintest trace of something I couldn't place, like burnt paper.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned.
The voice was calm, not nervous like most who sat behind the grate. Not performative either, just steady. Too steady. I responded, out of habit. When was your last confession?
It's been a very long time.
He told me about a woman. He named her. Told me her age, where she worked, where she lived. Then he described her death. She screamed for nearly 2 minutes before the water filled her lungs. Said her eyes closed and then opened and never closed again. He spoke like he was describing a weather report. No guilt, no remorse, just cold facts. I didn't know what to say. My mind was scrambling for a response. Something theological, something comforting, something human. But before I could speak, he added,
I just wanted someone to know I am not here to be forgiven.
Then he left. I sat in the booth for 15 minutes after he had gone, listening, waiting, just trying to make sense of what I had just heard. It had to be a prank, a test, someone with twisted humour. But deep down, I didn't believe that. I didn't believe that at all. The next morning, I convinced myself it was just a one-off. A disturbed man looking for attention, or someone testing boundaries, seeing how far they could push a priest. I'd hear strangers' confessionals over the years, but still, something about his tone clung to me. That voice, it didn't sound delusional. It sounded practiced. That evening, I found myself staying on later than usual. Not because I needed to, because I wanted to know if he would return. 9 o'clock passed, then 10. The church felt different that night. Heavier. Like the walls were leaning in. Like the stained glass were watching, not blessing. I busied myself with small rituals. Polishing chalices, refilling the fronts, straightening hymns no one had touched in weeks. Routine kept the mind from wandering. That's what we're taught. And at 11:42, I heard it again. The door slowly opened. No hesitation, same gait, same pace. He didn't look at me. He didn't need to. He just went directly into the same booth. I stood frozen in the aisle, holding the brass centre in one hand, watching him vanish behind carved wooden panels like a ghost sinking through a wall. I followed. I sat opposite, and I slid the grate open.
Forgive me, Father, for I've sinned again.
The same voice. Same calm, cold precision. But this time, the details were worse. He spoke of a man, a banker, described how he had earned the man's trust, befriended him over months, learned his routines, found out his secrets. Then he used those secrets to push him over the edge.
I made him jump. He didn't even leave a note, so I left one for him.
The man's name was David Halbert. He said it like it was nothing. A real name, a specific name, not a man or a friend. David Halbert. I wrote that down in my mind without meaning to. I should have asked more questions. I should have challenged him. But he never gave me the chance. He didn't want absolution. He wasn't seeking grace. He was reporting, like a soldier filling out a mission log. And when he was done, he said the same thing.
I just wanted someone to know.
And he left. I did something I've never done before. I looked up that name. I went into the back room, booted up the parish office computer. The thing barely ran, but I had to know. So I went into the system and I typed in David Halbert. London, finance, suicide, anything. But nothing. Not even a trace. No obituary. No news reports. No business listings. It was like the man never existed. And yet, I could picture him. Not a blur, not a guess, but a clear image. Short hair, thinning at the crown, navy suit, tan satchel, blue tie with a crease near the knot, the kind of details you can't invent. I stared at the screen for 20 minutes and then turned it off. That night I didn't sleep, and I realised something as the sky began to lighten outside the stained glass. I wasn't waiting for this man anymore. I was expecting him. The third night, he didn't speak right away. He just sat in the booth, breathing. No greeting, no sign of recognition, just breathing. Measured and calm. I cleared my throat, forced routine back into place. What brings you here to the house of God, my child?
Have you ever taken something that didn't belong to you?
My mouth went dry. He didn't say who, he didn't say what, but I knew it wasn't a question. It was an accusation. Then he continued. Same flat voice, same rhythm. But this time, he described something different. An older woman, Ruth McAllister. She lived alone, quiet, churchgoer. She died of natural causes. Or that's what her neighbours thought. He told me he watched her through her window for 3 weeks. Took notes, waited for the right night. Cold, quiet, no street traffic. Then he let himself in. He saw the moment she saw him. She froze, not in fear, but recognition. And then he smothered her with a pillow.
She didn't struggle. She just looked at me like she'd been expecting it.
When he said her name, something cracked in my memory. I know that name. Ruth McAllister. I performed her funeral service. I even remember the verse. But no one ever mentioned foul play. No investigation. No questions. Just passed peacefully in her sleep. The kind of question that you don't ask of someone that age. I ran back to the room after he left again, dug through the service lock, and there it was. March 14th. Ruth. But then I saw something. David Halberd. Service date, February 7th. Not listed under suicides, listed under private request, closed casket. I just felt like I had swallowed glass. They weren't just names. They weren't just stories. They were funerals I had conducted. People I had blessed. And somehow I didn't remember their names. Like a curtain had now been pulled aside, like I was looking at my own handwriting through a stranger's eyes. I started writing everything down in a notebook. Not just what he said, but what I remembered. Names, faces, verses, the layout of caskets, the weather that day. They were all there once he said them. Before that, it was like a fog. Like someone had quietly rewritten pages in my own mind and then glued them shut. I was starting to ask myself things you should never ask out loud. What if I know more? What if I buried more than I remember? What if these aren't his sins? What if they're mine? I told myself I wouldn't dig any further. That I would let it go. But I didn't. I couldn't. After the third night, I stopped sleeping entirely. I stopped eating. The hunger was there, but it felt like background noise, static against the need to know, the need to understand. So I went to the rectory archives. The room hadn't been used in years. Dust hung in the air like smoke. Filing cabinets lined the walls, labelled with a scroll I didn't recognise, though it was clearly mine. Burial records, personal notes, ledgers, books going back decades. I found one marked Deaths, Pastoral Services Only. Thin, black leather, unremarkable. Inside, columns of names, dates, notes. Pages after pages of the forgotten. Every one of the victims he confessed was listed. Ruth McAllister, David Holbeard, Marie Benson, Mark Aldershire, Timothy Cord. I flipped back through years. The dates stretched back further than I remembered serving at this church. Some from before I even arrived at St. Augustine's. But the handwriting was still the same. The handwriting was mine. Every name, every note, in my script. Then I turned to the back. No pages, just a single photo. Pressed between the leather and the cardboard backing. Black and white, low contrast, old. It was me, standing beside an open casket, hands folded, eyes closed. Only, I didn't recognize the person inside, or the building I was standing in. I dropped the ledger. I let it fall to the floor. I don't remember taking the photo. I don't remember that funeral. But there I was, captured on film. Smiling. Then I heard it. A knock from the hallway. Not from the front of the rectory. It was closer. Behind me. On the inside wall of the office. The one facing the confessional on the other side of the church. There is no door on that wall. No window. Just stone. But I swear on the cloth, I heard it. 3 knocks. Deliberate. Slow. Like someone's asking me to be let out. I didn't go home that night. I didn't go to sleep. I sat in the church under the glow and waited for him to come again. But he didn't. And that was worse, because he meant he could show up, and I had no idea when. There's a room in the church that no one uses. It's not locked. It's not hidden. Just no one goes in. We call it East Wing Storage. But it's not for storage. Not really. Stone floor, one narrow glass-stained window, and a small desk covered in dust. Every time I pass it, it feels cold. Not in temperature, but something else. A resistance in the air, like walking through water. That night, I found myself outside that room. I didn't remember walking there. I just found myself inside. It was just as I recalled it. Something was a little bit different. There were no shadows, despite the flickering light bulb overhead. Every corner of the room was visible, exposed, as if the darkness had been scrubbed out. And on the desk, a box. No dust, no wear, like it had just been placed there. So curiosity got the better of me, and I opened it. Inside were photographs, hundreds of them, yellowed, curled at the corners. Each one was of me, performing rites, holding hands with Greaves' family, standing over graves. In each, my expression never changed. My mouth was a flat line, my eyes distant, like I was always somewhere else. And in the corner of every photo, scrawled in red ink. Do you remember this? I dropped the photos. They scattered like dead leaves. And then I saw the wall, no longer blank. It was covered in notes, names, dates, and quotes from scripture, and then questions.
Who was Mark before the fall? What was left in Ruth's hand? Who gave you that ledger? What happened to your mother?
That one hit me hard, because I realised I didn't know the answer. I couldn't remember her name. I couldn't remember if I even had one. A wave of nausea hit me like a crash. I backed out the room, slammed the door and locked it. Although it had no lock, I thought. And the second I turned around, the centre booth door was open. Just slightly, inviting, waiting. It was the first time I didn't want to enter. Not out of fear for that man, out of fear that this time I'd sit down and no one would be on the other side, and I'd start talking anyway. The church is silent. There's no ticking clock. There's no rain. Just oppressive stillness. Like somebody was already waiting in the booth. But I don't recall anything else. I didn't sleep for 2 days after that. I locked the door to what I now call the memory room, but somehow I keep finding it open. I threw the photos away, burned them in the church's iron stove. That night, I found one in my pocket, folded it into my wallet where my driver's license should have been. The photo? Me, asleep at my own desk. And I don't even remember sleeping. I don't remember anything. And then I hear it. The confessional booth slowly creaks open and shuts. I don't remember going into that booth, but I was there. Candlelight flickering against the old screen, and then I heard him.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned.
I didn't answer. I couldn't.
It's been a long time, hasn't it?
I still remained silent.
You always needed someone to blame, someone to wear, someone to hear,
someone to admit what you had done. My throat went dry. My body didn't move, but my mind was now screaming. So I came in, night after night, and you listened, because that's what you do, isn't it, Thomas? His voice, now similar, sends a trembling, restrained rage through me. You listen, you nod, and you forget. I leaned forward, my fingers trembling, and pressed to my ear to the grate, and then I realised that there was no one there. No outline, no shadow, nothing. Only a small, hand-sized mirror tucked inside the grate. The frame scorched black, the glass warped like water, and in the reflection, I saw not the confessional booth, but myself, sitting where the confessor should be. Same posture, same collar, same tired eyes. Only I was smiling. You always knew it was you. You never needed someone else to say it. The sins, the names, the funerals. Not things I witnessed, things I buried. Things I performed. And then, the mirror cracked. A single line down the middle. A divide. Half me. Half someone else. Sometimes we bury things deep inside ourselves. We forget they were even ours to begin with. But the mind keeps records and the soul keeps ledgers. You can lie to the world all you want, but confessionals are eternal. This was The Confession Booth. Thank you for listening to Glitch Reality this week. We will see you next week for the penultimate episode of Season 1. And remember, keep an eye on that glitch because sometimes the glitch is truth.